Now let's keep going. Left Eye had Scorpio in the 5th house. And for that, we have to give her a freaky alert. Scorpio in the 5th house is definitely a freak sign. It means that sex is my recreation. It means that sex is something I do for fun. It's a hobby. It's something that I am truly invested in. And so with that being said, that is definitely a freaky alert indicator if there ever was one. Scorpio in the house of fun and hobbies means you was getting your freak on. Now, Aquarius in the 7th house means that her relationships were often probably unstable. And we can see that with, her proposal and almost marriage to wide receiver Andre Rison. Now, they didn't get married because Left Eye passed or was unalive before they could truly get married, but they had a very tumultuous and rocky relationship. And when you look further and you see Mars in that 7th house, that means that there's the potential for violence and domestic violence in that relationship. So not only were these two abusive to each other, but there were abuses with going back and forth, but probably also in other relationships that Left Eye had. I mean, she was with Suge Knight, and it was rumored that Suge Knight put his hands on her. So Left Eye probably had lots of violence in her relationships. If she wasn't the perpetrator, she was probably the victim. Now, I can't say which one that was, but with Mars in that 7th house, it definitely means that, there was some passing of blows, some abuses, some anger, some aggression. Also, that particular placement kind of led to the anger that basically had her burning down Andre Rison's house. And so with that being said, things like that tend to happen when you have Mars in the relationship realm. There's a lot of anger, there's a lot of aggression, and sometimes that comes out in different forms on different people. Now, Venus square Mars also indicates that Left Eye had a bunch of love and hate relationships. And so that's one of the reasons why she was on and off with Andre Rison and all these people, because her relationships were eccentric. And one of the causes for that, one of the things that we have to get into is Left Eye has a hard aspect to the sun and also to Uranus or Neptune that deals with her father. And we have to talk again about fathers. We talked about it in the Chili video, but we also have to talk about this in the Left Eye video. Because her traumatic relationship with her father, that abuse that she suffered, led to a lot of the bad choices that Left Eye made. She chose a lot of men who were wrong for her. She ran around in crowds that weren't good for her. The same pattern that Chili had. And when I look at these two, I believe that Chili was closer to Left Eye than T-Boz was. Because T-Boz was trying to be a dictator. She had to be controlled. T-Boz was stiff. I'm up front. I'm T-Boz. I run this. And Lisa Left Eye Lopez's attitude was, you don't run nothing. T-Boz was the leader in name of TLC. But in the reality, Lisa Left Eye Lopez was indeed the leader of this group. But she was closer to Chili because Chili two things why she was close to Chili. One was because Chili was more emotional. She knew how to say things that would motivate and move Left Eye. That's why when Left Eye started having these issues, Chili would be the one to speak up. Why? Because Chili had more emotional control. She was closer to her. And I think people at the label saw that and sent Chili in to say things and do things to push Left Eye to do what they wanted her to do. And Left Eye having that soft spot, having that moon in Cancer, having that emotional energy, responded more to Chili than she did to T-Boz. T-Boz was hard. T-Boz was trying to be a dictator. There was this resistance, this power struggle between these two. And so with that being said, her emotions was one of the things that basically was kind of a lever for Chili to use to get her to do what she wanted. Now, Aquarius in the 8th house. We have to talk about the passing and the undoing of Left Eye. One of the things that is very strange about her passing, and I have to link this in with her 12th house. Her 12th house has a moon in it, and your 12th house has your undoing and things that'll bring you down, as well as your 8th house. Those two paired up, it's very interesting to see that when Left Eye passed, she was in a car full of women. Moon represents women. Moon in the 12th house, that house of undoing, meaning that her enemies were likely women. T-Boz, woman. Chili, enemy, woman. Even problems with her mother behind the scenes, because there's not much on her mother, but obviously there's not a real closeness. They feel distant when I look at the footage, and when I look at basically how it's portrayed, there's a distance between her mother and Left Eye. And so with that being said, let's look at the 8th house and how she was in a car full of women when she passed. That 8th house has Aquarius in it, which means that there's something mysterious, there's something eccentric, there's something different about the way that she passed. This was not an average undoing. This was not an average unaliving. Something was set up. Something happened. And we don't have all the details. But it's funny that there was a camera and a camera crew nearby and strange people coming and going around the time that she passed. Something about that is just not, it's not sitting with me. And it never has sat with me that this woman just had a random accident down in a foreign country when she owed all these people money. She took money from the label took money from her and wasn't paying her. She was coming out having these outlandish statements and these back and forths with her own group. She was having these power struggles where they were telling her what to do and she didn't want to obey. And we have all of these issues that are coming out of this thing. There's too much going on for that to simply be a coincidence. So as dynamic a person as she was, as creative and progressive as she was, because Left Eye could spit a hell of a verse, I believe that the label had something to do with her passing. Nothing can really convince me otherwise. There are too many coincidences. Once you start having 5 and 6 and 7 different things that line up funny, it starts to become where, okay, something had to happen. And I truly believe that something happened to her that we may never know, but I believe someone did it. I don't think this was just an accident. People don't just skirt and go off the road and bam, that's it. Nah, someone made that happen. Whether it was through metaphysical means, because there are people who said that those women in the back were doing things in the back seat, or whether it was through someone who just purely came up and physically sabotaged and did whatever they did. But something happened to her. But I believe that Left Eye was a beautiful soul while she was here. You know, I don't think that I always agreed with the things that she did in her life. But at the same time, she was bent on her own freedom, and that I respect. So with that being said, there's a lot to take from this chart. There's a lot to learn with this astrology. I'm still doing these charts. I'm still taking those donations. With that being said, it's very sad to think about the passing of Left Eye. But at the same time, she left a lot in this world, and she definitely blazed her own path. And there are women in my life who have blazed their own path. And so with that being said, I always respect that. It's John Gadia.